well, let's kick things off. Welcome to tonight's top shelf tasting, our very last top shelf tasting. No, second last one of the year. We got one more, the Whiskey Exchange tasting next week, or in 10 days or so. But yeah, tonight's top shelf tasting is all about one of our favorite Islay distilleries, Bunnahabhain. And when most people think Islay, I think everyone in the group is quite familiar with Islay whiskey. They specialize in big sherry bombs and mostly unpeated single malt. They do a peated version called Moine, which is whisky number 6 in our lineup. That's the main distillery designation to know if you're getting a peated Bunnahabhain. Well, Bunna, as we like to call it, a short enough as we drink. I'm just gonna stop guessing with my Gaelic is terrible, so we'll try our best tonight. But joining me is the lovely Cookson. Not drinking tonight, so please, send for your best tasting notes, Emma, so she can drink vicariously through for all of us. But she is our resident whiskey expert and knows way more about these specialized wine cask finishes that I have no idea what we're drinking. I'm just here to have a good time. Don't drink and drive, drink plenty of water, all the usual stuff, high ABV whiskeys tonight. Throw in all your questions. We've got 6 lovely drams. If you've had a welcome dram, great, warm up your palate. If not, we are kicking off with a mega 59.7 dram, and I might actually let Emma start off with this whiskey.
Yeah, so we're starting off with the Amarone cask, which when I got into whiskey, it was mostly and partially because I love whiskey and a little bit because I didn't really like wine. And now working in whiskey, I've had to learn so much about wine. And this is actually one of those styles of wine that I've had to learn quite a bit about because you find it used typically in a lot of independent bottlings. So the full name for the wine style is Amarone della Valpolicella, which is named for, so Della is from in Italian. So della Valpolicella is from Valpolicella, which is in the Verona region of Italy, which makes up the area around Venice. If you've never been, beautiful, massive winemaking region. And it's made from Corvina and Rondinella grapes, mostly. Yes, very much flexing my Italian linguistic muscles. It's been a long time. But yeah, so it's produced in this region, and the name Amarone, because it's always shortened to Amarone, means great bitter. So when you think Amaro is bitter in Italian, Amarone, more bitter, great bitter. And the reason that they called it that was kind of a bit of a slap to the style of wine. They call it that because there's another style of wine made in the same region that's a little bit sweeter. So they're like, well, it's the less sweet one, so we're just going to call it bitter. But it is a typically more savory flavor profile compared to a lot of other styles of red wine. Yeah, I need a bigger, wider screen speaking Italian. But yeah, so, and I think as you find with, especially with the more savory styles of wine, just like the more dry styles of sherry, as soon as you put whiskey in them, it's like, oh, I know it's dry, but I'm going to find every morsel of sugar and like sweetness and whatnot in that cask. So I've only had a few Amarone casks before. I believe there was a Hidden Spirits one years ago. Michael Seagrave might actually know which one I mean. But yeah, so Amarone cask, Italian red wine. You're weirdly, even the smell doesn't really give off a lot of that red berry fruit that you would anticipate. Thank you, Leo, reminding me. Aaron does an Amarone cask finish, just like their Sauternes cask finish. But yeah, so I'd love to see what you guys think. On the nose, for me, it's like, I don't know. There's a little bit of savoriness there, like tomato stems, but is that like bread pudding? Yeah.
I was just going to jump in, Emma. The official tasting notes, it's obviously a dry sort of finish, but they actually specify caramelized walnut, sweet blackcurrant jam, toasted malt, and a gentle warming spice. And then I've read some other online reviews. People are saying sprinkle of black pepper on the finish. I don't know if other people are getting it, but this is quite spicy. And it has a little bit of sweetness, but on follow-up sips, on the first sip, it was just very dry and spicy. As I'm going back on a second and third sip, the sweetness, some of those caramelized notes, I'm getting a little bit of figs as well.
Yeah, I agree with that, Leah. The white grapes, that really like when you get those grapes and they're like a little bit underripe, and they have that real tart skin to them. All right, Bradley's always found Amarone sweeter, given the winemaking process has this grape sit and almost become raisins prior to crushing. So it's kind of halfway to a port, probably more like a Douro then, I suppose, because Douro is that kind of table wine step before port. But I'm still learning about the fermentation times and processes and stuff for wine. So I'm gonna have to get a real proper learning in wine and just suck it up and be like, I'm doing it for the whiskey. Yeah. So I know we've started off with a big one on the palate. It's a very unique, interesting taste, says Howard.
Are we yay or nay liking this one so far? It's always hard in the first whiskey.
Leo's in the middle. Howard.
The wares are in favor of it. You guys remind me of the Gladiator film. There we go. I like it. I didn't like it on first sip, I'm going to be completely honest, but the more I go back to it, I don't know, this is a dream. Maybe you need to open up, let it sip and sit and breathe a bit, and then sip on it for a while. Yeah,
something you can come back to as well after we go through the others, because obviously it's going to get a little bit more richer and sweeter as we go on. But like the last one that we'll have is 51%, so it wouldn't be absolutely crazy to go back into the Amarone.
I forgot to say, so some of these whiskies are distillery only, but we did get a very small shipment, and they're live on our website now. A few people have already snagged them up. They've been live for a couple of weeks. Tonight we're also getting a sneak preview of the new Bunnahabhain 12 Cask Strength 2022 edition. And even though it went live a couple months ago, officially, like in Scotland, there's a big global shipping delay. So our next shipment of Bunnahabhain, Deanston, Moine, Lecheg as the official importers in Australia, it's on the boat. It's coming here. It's been delayed week after week. We'll fingers crossed maybe get some in time for Christmas. If not, then we'll have a big party in January. But yeah, the new 12 Cask Strength is on its way and it'll be very, very soon, fingers crossed. So it's a little sneak peek. I got some air freighted over for us to try it to see how it compares to last year's edition, because last year's was good. I liked it. I think personally the Unyauch was better. I like the port cherry combo over its normal 12 Cask Strength, but that was kind of me. But yeah, it'll be great to try it for the first time tonight, the slightly higher ABV version and compare. So yeah, keen to get everyone's thoughts on that. So but that's whiskey number 3 on the lineup. So we got another one to get to. Yeah.
Michael reckons a drop of water has tamed the initial hit. Yeah, I think especially at that ABV, might be wise.
And if there's ever a Bunna or any of the distill brand you're looking for, let us know. We might have some sitting in the warehouse. Some of us got the other guy. You can see he's a wonderful Bunna jumper. He works on our on-premise teams that sells all Bunna to all the bars and stuff. So sometimes he's got an allocation he's holding back for a particular bar. But if there's a particular bottle you're looking for, if we don't have it in stock, just reach out to us. Just Ollie, Emma, Scott at the Whiskey List, or even Cheers at, and yeah, we'll try and find you something. Everyone's looking for that 30-year-old Leo.
Yeah, don't get me started, Leo. I'm like, I've been harassing for it. Like, please, it's so good.
But send us an email and we'll put you on a wait list. And yeah, if as soon as if we don't have it in stock, we'll put an order in with Scotland and we'll get some over for you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I might keep interrupting with a sales pitch, so that's been and dusted.
It's all right. It's, I mean, how we get the whiskey. We know what a whiskey. Plus, if you guys ask for the 30-year-old, then I can get more 30-year-old. And after I tried that 30-year-old Bunnahabhain, I was like, why did I not know about this? So yeah, we can definitely do what we can. Well, your oldest turns 30th in January. That's so amazing. Yeah. Actually, that's not a terrible idea to get a birth year bottle. Well, anyway, on to the next whiskey discussion for another time. But yeah, so whiskey number 2 is the 2009 French wine cask, 12-year-old. So this has been finished for 2 years in French wine. I could not find anywhere what kind of French wine cask it was. It seems to be just because it's a very kind of, it's a generic, most likely red wine, given kind of the smell. And
the official tasting notes say finished in the finest French wine. That's it.
Yeah. I'm like, that doesn't help me. That doesn't help me at all. There's so many types of French wine. So, but yeah. So this bottling is really cool. So this is for the Coterie Club. So if you haven't heard of the Coterie Club before, it's kind of like Springbank has the Springbank Society. You've got other distilleries have their own kind of clubs or, kind of special members groups and whatnot. And the Coterie is just Bunnahabhain's version of that. So this is a 2021 Coterie Club exclusive release. With the Coterie releases, they tend to get like real fun, real funky. They did a rum cask finish one a couple of years back that was bonkers, like probably one of the greatest whiskeys I've tried. And I remember we were chatting to Billy Sinclair, who's now at Lefroy Distillery, but Billy was like, oh yeah, like didn't really sell. And I'm like, what? It was one of the greatest. So I'm hoping that when I get the chance to taste this will be kind of a similar vibe, despite being one cask. But yeah, so 2-year finish, just enough to round it out. It would have been a refill hogshead before then. A lot of what they do, especially for this kind of stuff, is refill hogshead. So it's not the sherry bomb Bunna that most people are used to. Is probably more similar to the casking that they use for their peated styles, which tends to be more bourbon. So
first impressions, this reminds me of quite a few of the IB Bunnas we've had this year at various virtual tastings, Emma. It's definitely a bourbon, like it's very malty, classic malty Bunna sweetness on the front and in the middle there. There's an orange, I don't know, maybe marmalade sort of even a little bit creamy. I don't know. There's something just sitting there. I'm also getting a bit of spice, but like white chocolate or sweet chocolate rather than.
Is it like those orange cream biscuits you get in the Arnott's packs?
Yeah, those kind of vibes.
Like maybe a little bit of Anzac.
Mushroom risotto with chives.
Delish. Michael reckons it doesn't drink at 60% though. Yeah, it smells beautiful. Like my nose is not like, oh, there's a lot of alcohol on that, but yeah. Yeah, definitely like that orange. Maybe even like the orange cream that you get in a box of roses. Kind of that in between, a little bit biscuity, a little bit chocolatey, but a lot of orange cream, buttercream.
I decided to take a slightly larger sip and finish my sample in the second gulp. And it has a very herbal finish. Maybe that's where the chives are coming in. Yeah. It's creamy on the front and then it's herbally on the finish.
Okay. Yeah, a bit of water brings out banana, toasted coconut. Yeah, nice. Terry's Chalk Orange. I have heard about that. That's not similar to the orange, like it's shaped like an orange and it's just wedges of chocolate. That's what it, yeah, okay, yeah, we get that in Australia. Yeah, we totally do. It's always hard, especially, so back at Whiskey and Ailment, let me back at Whiskey and Ailment, the venue manager when I started working there is Scottish. His name's James. He's now works as a distiller at Four Pillars, actually. And he would give us all these like British tasting notes, Terry's Chalk Orange, Tarek's Lemonade. And so like I ended up having to eat and drink my way through all of these Scottish products. I've literally got a tin of British golden syrup in my, in my house because I had to try it. So yeah, that's cool stuff. But yeah, I totally get what you mean, that Terry's Chalk Orange. Yes.
People liking this? Thumbs up, thumbs down, middle.
The wares are in the middle now for this one, but other people are loving it. Nice.
I'm just reading the official tasting notes. So creamy and rich initially, some lemon and white chocolate, herbaceous like rosemary in the background. That's the nose, the palate, buttered brioche, orange cream. There we go. More white chocolate, some vanilla with water. They don't often write with water tasting notes. That's called lime juice and white sugar, classic fruity and malty Bunna sweetness. Long, slow, sweet, creamy, and herbal finish. So there you go.
Definitely the creamy.
I think that one bottle is left in stock as well. Popular when we first dropped it. So
it's good stuff, and it's good to see, like, even though it has a wine cask finish, it's good to see Bunna in a more bourbon oriented space because it's like just takes to it really well. Yeah. But yeah.
I'm sorry, Emma, I have been the sherry note of the next whiskey has just been calling me. Not only the color, but yeah, if everyone poured out their notes, they'll notice both the 12 cask strength and the double wood, the nose that's coming off it it's just so inviting. So let's maybe dive straight into the 12.
Can't wait, you already started. Well, it smells like Ribena straight up, and I'm so about that. But yeah, so obviously the most familiar whiskey on this lineup, the 12 cask strength. So this one is slightly higher ABV than the 2021 release. So this one is 1.5% alcohol more. So that little bit of extra ABV, you're gonna have to let me know if it feels it, because I know that with the 2021, some people were like, oh yeah, it definitely drinks as cask strength. But this is going even richer. So obviously with the 12 cask strengths, they are just large batches. They are limited release. They're batches done every year, but it is just the 12-year-old, the regular Bunnahabhain 12-year-old bottled at cask strength, rather than bringing the ABV down to, was it 46.3%? Is what Julian bottles pretty much every core release at. So yeah, and I think that higher ABV, even though it's the same whiskey, that higher ABV really gives a viscosity and a richness and a depth. And you do get a bit exhausted from single cask high ABV whiskeys all the time, but sometimes when you compare like a regular 12 and a cask strength 12, it's like it's so much more elevated. And I know it's not for like the everyday drinking, but so much more elevated. Oh, Scott reckons there's more chocolate on the palate. Oh, so I wish I could taste this.
For those who we did a Bunna tasting with Julian earlier in the year. If you don't remember or you missed that tasting, she told the story of the 12-year-old, and basically you go to the distillery, highly recommended. I've got some photos to tell the story if anyone hasn't seen it. Beautiful place. But you do the warehouse tour. Warehouse 9 is called. It's like my church. It's beautiful. You go in, it's beautiful. I'll put up some photos in a minute. You go in and you do this warehouse tour, and then at the end of this tour, they tell you the story that you go in and you get your pull out some samples straight from the cask, and the whole place is just these giant sherry barrels, and it's magical. And I don't know, you just the sense, the dampness, because they're kind of built into the ground, a bit underground, and immediately step out the door and the water's like the sea sprays coming off as well. So it's this, I don't know, apart from calling it magical, it is truly an experience, and highly recommend them. Yeah, they're the hardest and most remote Islay distillery to visit. But when you do go in there, you get to try the whiskey straight out of the cask in Warehouse 9. Julian goes, COVID happened, all the tours stopped, and she's like, how do we get that magic and put it in a bottle? And goes, well, the 12-year-old is our most popular whiskey, is worldly recognized, is worldly available. What if we take, that straight out of the cask experience with our normal 12-year-olds? And that's how this 12 cask strength came about. And like I said, it's a yearly batch. It's not as limited as a few hundred bottles, as there's probably 10 or 20,000 bottles, but it's for a global market. We'll get our decent allocation in the next few weeks, hopefully. But yeah, each year they're hoping to improve it. So they did it last year. They got some feedback. Some hardcore cask strength fans were saying this wasn't cask strength enough, and they took that feedback on board. So they've upped. I think yeah, and the other big call out is, I think last year's one had a mix of different casks. This is first and second fill Oloroso casks. There might be a tiny bit bourbon in there as well. Ex-bourbon casks, just to kind of balance out some of those vanillas and the bottom palate. But yeah, otherwise it's all Oloroso. And I think that just adds to the magic of this whiskey. I'm really liking it.
I reckon straight apricots on the palate and the finish, probably the easiest on the palate yet. Unbelievable nose. Yeah, it smells a bit richer. So I'm very excited to say for myself, but hands up if you are loving this one maybe more than the 2021 version. Yeah. Ooh. Controversial. But I think that's the great thing as well, though, about being able to do these releases as batches, is you get the feedback from the previous year and you improve and you make adjustments and stuff. So it's one of those things, each batch is just going to get better and better. And I mean, it's already a great product anyway, but
there's a red berry note that the normal 12 and the 18-year-old has, at least that I get, that I really love. And I didn't get that in last year's cask strength, but it's here, it's present, it's front and center, it's sitting on the palate. And I'm so happy that it's returned. I think, I don't know, that to me is what makes this a better whiskey.
Yep. Yeah, cool. Is it like a cranberry or like a raspberry? What do you think?
I just call it like red berries. I don't know how to explain it. It's not raspberry, it's not strawberry. It's not too tardy. It's just, I don't know, maybe like a red berry smoothie when we go Woolies, you buy the frozen red, like the mixed packs of berries. I don't know.
Red currant could call Leo.
Yeah, red currant.
Maybe, yeah. And cranberry. I love cranberry, especially when you get like good cranberries, which are probably overloaded with sugar.
Shall I drop some photos before we jump into the next whiskey?
Go for it.
Share screen. Hit preview. All right. Can everyone, Emma, can you confirm that you've seen that?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep, the single road that leads to Bunnahabhain.
Yeah, the place is remote. Like, you go to Scotland, you have to drive for a day to basically get Islay. The roads are terrible. You jump on the ferry, you go across, and then you see Lagavulin and Lefroy and Coilla, and they're all together. And you got Beaumont down the road, you got Kilhoman, and then you have to drive north and then up this. Actually, any quick question? Does Bunnahabhain obviously means something in Gaelic? any guesses, or anyone in the chat can guess what Bunnahabhain means? It's got a particular translation.
Anyone who knows it.
Yeah, I can't see the chat at the moment, Emma, so you have to call out.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on it.
If someone gets it. But yeah, you follow up the river, and there's a hint there, and then you basically take this windy road and you go around the cove, follow the river, let the islands base out, and when you get to the mouth, you are greeted with you can catch a boat as well, great for fishing, but yeah, you are greeted with this site basically. So yeah, that's probably the nicest picture of the distillery on a sunny or sunny day I've ever seen taken. It's usually like glum and traditional Scottish weather. The flags on the wharf, they're always in full mast and battling in the wind. But this photo shows you the prettiness on a beautiful Aussie summer's day that they managed to get, and then just an aerial shot, so you can see the landscape is all around. For the wharf is a great place to take a photo. The Bunna logo sort of naming on that's Warehouse 9, that particular one that's got the writing, the name on it as well. And one of the other cool things is when you get there, they've got all these barrels sort of sitting at the front here, where they're just ready to be actioned. Maybe they've just been emptied, maybe they're about to be re-seasoned or recast or re-fired up or recoopered. So, but yeah, you're always greeted by some giant mountain of barrels before you get to the distillery. But in terms of the size of it, they're quite big. They were always designed to be for blending and malting. With the big malt houses and a lot of their whiskey still is today. But yeah, in terms of the magic of it, just being right there in Warehouse 9 by the water, I think just captivates exactly what the distillery is about.
Yeah, I'm convinced that there was one nice day on Islay and every distillery went out and took a photo of their distillery on that one day. The guys at Brooklady were like, there was one, so we went out and took photos. So, but yeah, so it's a very Victorian style distillery, which is quite old school compared to a lot of other distilleries in Scotland. And it's funny, I was chatting to someone and they're like, yeah, but Bunnahabhain's like, it's a little bit old fashioned with its Victorian style. And I'm like, I will come for you. And yes, when we're in a chicken dinner, Michael, Bunnahabhain is mouth of the river because it's so close to the Margadale River, which they use for their water source. But yeah, it's I'm very excited to go one day. But yeah, whiskey number 4. So this is not the same Manzanilla cask as was the limited release last year. So this is a sister cask. So again, it's full maturation Manzanilla, but this was bottled at a slightly lower ABV actually. And it was bottled for the Coterie Club again, so the members club for Bunnahabhain. So yeah, full maturation, no finishing on this one. And Manzanilla is one of my favorite sherry casks for whiskey and one of my least favorite sherries. I think it's not worth drinking, just use the casks. But yeah, so Manzanilla, the double L is why I sound, because Spanish. And I'm probably going to butcher this Spanish. So Manzanilla is a style of fina sherry made near the port of Sanlúcar de Barrameda in Spain. So there's only a few regions in Spain that are for sherry production. And you've got Sanlúcar and you've got Jerez are the kind of two main ones in Spain. And the Bradley, the sherries, I can't deal with dry sherries. But the name of the style, so the word Manzanilla actually comes from the Spanish name for chamomile infusion, and they named their sherry chamomile infusion because they reckon it's got a very similar flavor profile, and I don't disagree with that at all. If you've never tried Manzanilla sherry before, it's like drinking chamomile tea that has become super astringent but is also like light in color and light in flavor. It's just drinking weak bitter chamomile tea. So yeah, and the sherry itself is very pale and dry because of the way that it's fermented. So Fino styles are open ferment, and you get like the floor and the yeast and all that kind of stuff, and it's treated very differently to the way that the ferment first things like Oloroso and Pedro Ximenez are. So it's all to do with yeast layers and fun, gross sounding things like that. But that affects the sugar content for the final wine. I'm loving these tasting notes. Balsamic vinegar, tomato on the nose, that crazy liquid malt and burnt caramel and figs. See, I'm not, maybe it's just me because I'm allergic to tomatoes, but I get Ferrero Rocher, very similar to the other Manzanilla. There's a little bit of that like Ferrero Rocher toasted hazelnut thing on the nose. But I don't know whether it comes through on the palate, so we shall see. You will tell me.
The first ABV mistake on the labels. It says 45.4. This is actually 49.5. Just to rock everyone's world. So it's slightly higher ABV than advertised. I'm sitting here drinking, that's not right. So I just looked up the product sheet about this whiskey. It started actually as last year's limited edition, and they didn't bottle all of it, and they decided to leave about a quarter of the cask for another year to mature, and then release it as this particular one. So it's if you did try the last year's Manzanilla cask, it's pretty much the same one. It's just matured for an extra year, basically.
Yeah.
They don't have many of these special casks. I remember we were chatting with Julian, the master blender, and she said this, once it's gone, it's gone. So this, must be the last of it.
Mm. Yeah.
Getting a little bit of lemon peel and red apples. It's still dry and sweet at the same time. It's such a weird cask finish.
Yeah, Leah's not getting the astringency. Fair enough. I was saying before with the Amarone cask, it's that thing of like dry or savory casks tend to, I don't know, elevate sweetness sometimes, or they can like completely dry it out. So the magic of cask science and maturation that nobody can control as much as we like to think we can. But yeah, I think it's really cool. Manzanilla is one of my favorite casks to look for in a whiskey finish or even a full maturation. I think there have been some amazing ones that I've tried, but yeah, I loved last year's limited release, so I'm excited to taste this because I love the smell on this one. So it's a little bit.
I'm going to make a bold statement, and I think last year's the nose on this one's better than last year's, but the palate and the finish and the richness of last year's one trumps this one just a little bit.
Good thing I've still got my bottle from last year somewhere in this. I think that's it right there. Yeah, that's it right there.
I really enjoyed last year's one. This one, yeah, it's just, I don't know, maybe because we just had a 12 cask strength and the Oloroso behind this isn't, it's just become so dry on the palate.
I will say as well, you said this was what, 49.5% ABV?
Yes.
Last year's was 52.1%. So there is the ABV difference as well. So that might be kind of how it is.
Fight me, Scott.
You're gonna have an all-out whiskey list war of the two Bunnahabhains.
But you know what? Fine.
Just swap
this
bottles.
one. Yeah.
Just swap bottles.
I'm okay with this happy resolution.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing.
What's everyone think? Yay, nay?
Some yays, some
Michael, the shoulders. Not even worth raising my hand for.
He's a tough critic. Yeah, amazing. Now, there was the typo on the Manzanilla. There's also, unfortunately, a typo on next whiskey, but it's so exciting though. So I think you can forgive us. The New Acquaintance 2022 is the next whiskey. It is not a 21-year-old. It is a 32-year-old. So, you know, a little bit older. But yeah, so the next whiskey, the New Acquaintance, is part of an annual release that they started doing about 4 years ago, where they wanted to do a vatting of some of their oldest and rarest whiskey casks and vat them together. So this is 2 batches of whiskey. One batch was 36-year-old Oloroso whiskey, which was finished in canaster casks, another type of fortified wine. And then it was vatted with 32-year-old whiskey that had been finished in virgin oak casks for 6 years. So you're getting that like green spice, fresh sugar from the virgin oak, and then 32 years in cask, and you're getting the 36-year-old Oloroso canaster sugar bomb shenanigans. When I was smelling the whiskeys to decide the lineup, I literally had to stop and smell this one for like a solid minute because it smells amazing. It's like caramel crowns biscuits, and just I'm very excited. So I'd love to
say that one more time, Emma. So we've got the 36-year-old
36-year-old Oloroso finished in canaster casks, and then 32-year-old finished in virgin oak.
For 6 years, but we don't know what it had before then.
No, I think it was sherry finished in virgin oak, but I'm not 100% certain. I love Bradley's comment. It smells like diabetes. It does. It just smells so sugary, and I'm a massive sweet tooth, so I'm very excited for when it'll probably be the first thing I drink as soon as I'm done my brand of antibiotics.
Do you think it's PX, just normal Oloroso before it was virgin? Because it's got very toffee notes.
But that might come from the canaster.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, it could be a refill hogshead finished in virgin oak for 6 years. And I know that, so especially with refill hogsheads, if you leave a whiskey, even something like Bunnahabhain, especially something like Bunnahabhain, for a really long time, it can take on a lot of sherry-esque style notes. There was a Dalyuan independent bottling I tried years ago. It was 20 years old, full maturation bourbon cask, looked, smelled, tasted just like it had been in sherry cask its whole life. But it was just a really robust and sugary ex-bourbon hogshead. So yeah, I'm not 100% certain on the makeup of the 32-year-old, but for those of you who were at our last top shelf Bunnahabhain tasting, that canaster cask, I think that was also a distillery exclusive, was it?
Testing my memory. I think it was an older bottling that we just found on auction or something.
Yeah, but no, that was one of my favorites. But yeah, so I remember that one was very rich, like grape jelly, grape jam, decadent. So I think a lot of the sweetness and the sugar in this vatting probably comes from the canaster casks. I don't know how long they were finished in canaster, but yeah. Chris is picking up Vicks vapor rubs and mosquito coils. I love that, and I'm kind of not mad at the idea of Vicks vapor rub.
I'm going to screenshot your comment and Bradley's above it and send it to the master blender. And it's just like, here's your 1,000-pound whiskey. And, you know, this is the Aussie tasting notes that we're getting here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's not the worst tasting that I've had in a whiskey. I once had a whiskey that tasted like knitted doilies on a dusty toilet paper roll. It was not good. It was not good at all. Also had toothpaste. The lovely nose, just a bit wacky. Yeah, no, fair enough. 100%.
Yeah, this is, if you're a sweet tooth, this whiskey is an old and rare. It's way up your alley.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it, obviously Leo was, after the 30-year-olds, but something like this just shows you how beautifully decadent old Bunnahabhain can get. It's so special. I don't get enough of it.
So comparing it to two Bunna tastings we had earlier this year, we had the 40-year-old one, which was very tropical, reminding me of like an old Irish Middleton tropical vibes. Even though it's a sherry cask, cool, very cool experience. We had the artist 40-year-old, which you put in the wrong order, and I don't remember if everyone else here who attended that tasting remembered. That was the best 40-year-old whiskey I've ever had, probably ever. It was proper sherry bomb. It was sweet. It was decadent. It was viscous. The ABV was high. I have no idea. I'm going to keep finding another bottle. It's on my wish list to try again. I'm so glad we cracked it open and tried it. And
Artist Collective, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, mate, we'll get on to Thierry in France. Like, oi, open up your archives.
Again, when you're 3 a.m. looking at Scotch whiskey auctions and you find a bargain and you jump on it thinking it may be good, it may not be good, and we crack it open for the whole point of these top shelf tastings is to try these whiskeys that are just sometimes a little bit out of reach, or you buy it and you leave it on your shelf and you never get to try it. We're going to crack open every whiskey that we have in our top shelf. Basically, that's the whole point of it. And yeah, we were so impressed with that one. But this is the fun of it, I guess.
Yeah, it's like that thing, I'm notorious for if I spend more than a certain amount on a bottle of whiskey, I feel iffy about opening and sharing it, because I'm like, well, no, I want it to be for a special occasion. And then I'm like, but which special occasion? And then by the time I get around to it, it's past, and I'm like, I should just crack it and drink it. Just crack it and drink it. So, being able to share these whiskeys that are, quite a bit up there in price point, and getting to, I think it's so important to taste things that you wouldn't normally otherwise get the chance to if the opportunity arises. It's nice to have the experience.
Absolutely, it's why we do it, Emma.
Without the bank debt. Yeah.
just a few more final slides and then we'll finish off with our peated Bunna. So I love this shot. Someone from marketing, obviously, I don't know if it's photoshopped or what, but they've taken their wharf and they've turned it into the seafarers, the storm vibes. The sound of Viola is what they call the shot, and that's what they use for all the great marketing shots. So it's a new 12-year-old cask strength. Here's the lineup of tonight, so you can see the Courtier labels, the classic white ones that they also use for their face releases. The 12 cask strengths got the normal 12 with cask strength written on the bottom there, and that double wood is their limited edition old and rare series with the blue label. So very cool. Whiskies, and as you can see here, 318 bottles of the one we just tried globally released. So very, very cool. This broke news yesterday or the day before, so I don't know if we're meant to even be talking about it, but let's just say when you submit whiskey to be sold in the United States, you have to declare it with the Foods and Drugs and Goods Administration, whatever they're called over there, and a lot of releases have to submit their labels ahead of time instead of public release. So a little sneak peek. This is one of the next year's face releases from Bunna. It looks like it's a non-age statement, 51.2%. But yeah, that's all the information we have on it. Unpeated, sherry, sweet. Another cask that we just tried now. So I think let's just put up a little teaser for something to look forward to. And yes, we'll be absolutely getting this whiskey and bringing it down for the face Fèis Irish in Ireland come June the 3rd from memory, and we'll do an online release as well for those who can't get down to Melbourne for that. That is very exciting. And Bunna did 3 Fèis releases last year. They did 2 that they announced, and then on the day of the festival, they announced another one at the Distillery door, which we managed to get 1 bottle and do a virtual tasting with at the last Bunna tasting. So we'll get our hands on as many of these cool releases as possible. But yeah, something to look forward to.
Everyone, I'm super excited.
Better than Bogan Burnout. Are we reached that point of the night, Howard, when we're chatting about the most peated whiskey in the world?
Yeah. Point the finger, sure. Yeah. Licorice finish, beautifully oily and long. Love it. Love it, like a viscous, oily, fruity character. Yeah, can't come to the Islay show if we fly back from Scotland. Well, I mean, that just sounds like you're missing out, and I feel bad for you. I'm going to be so jealous. We're going to have to see all the photos and stuff.
Excuses.
Yeah. But yeah, so last whiskey of the night, the 2004 Moine PX cask finish. So it's 16 years old, but the website says it's 17 years old, and I'm like, it's a months or whatever off, so we're going 16 just to be safe. But yeah, Moine is not how you pronounce it. I think it's Moine, but I don't have the brain space or energy for all the Gaelic names the Bunnahabhain uses. Yes, so there were 4 Fèis releases.
I always forget about the one that was like 800 pounds. I think it was an 88 or 86 or something. But yes, there were 4 in total.
Yeah. So look, to one day go to Fèis Festival in Scotland would be amazing. Obviously, you know, the cost and expense, but yeah, the fact that they're like, yeah, let's just do this and let's bottle this one and let's bottle that one. But yes, anyway, onto the Moine. So Moine's the official name for their peated release. Stayosha is the official name for independent bottlings of their peated release. So we clarified that with Julianne, because we were like, you never know. It's like some are called Stayosha, some say Moine, who knows? But yeah, so this is heavily peated, I believe around 38 ppm. So this was finished in refill hogshead before, matured in refill hogshead before being finished in PX for 5 years. So it's got a decent chunk of sherry on it. So one thing to note as well after our chat with Julianne is in the future, they probably won't be producing as much peated spirit. So up until COVID, Bunnahabhain was running their stills at about 60% capacity, just because they didn't need to use the entire capacity of their stills, which is insane. But demand from COVID for their regular stuff means that they're running at about 80%, I think it was now. But they're not going to be making as much Moine, and it's going to be primarily for Fèis releases, limited releases, coterie releases, all that kind of stuff. This is a distillery exclusive bottling, so getting our hands on it rather than going to the distillery, we managed to get a bottle.
We got a few left as well.
Ooh. But yeah, so this saves you the trek. But yeah, so we won't see as much. And a lot of their back stocks of peated whiskey would likely have been sold to Diageo a couple of years ago. So for those who haven't heard since I found out, and I've been telling everybody because I think it's very exciting, but in 2017, Caolila Distillery was closed for renovations to turn it into the Johnnie Walker visitor experience center, and Bunnahabhain fulfilled a lot of peated malt for their Johnny Walker blends. So over the next 5 years, some of the Johnny Walker blends will have Bunnahabhain in, Bunnahabhain Moine in it, because it's quite a similar flavor profile. I get a lot of like peanut brittle from both the distilleries for their peated releases. But yes, Leo, tragically, there won't be as much peated Bunna. There will still be some. It just won't be as much of a main focus. I know there used to be the core range Moine bottling, which I can barely find. You've got the Toy Chekagar, which is like the smoky no age statement release. There will be a little bit of that, but yeah, not as much as we're used to. The price might go up. It might just be that, you know, the demand was never really there, which is heartbreaking. But we'll see how it goes. You know, and in the future, if they find that there's more demand, they might go back to it. But peated whiskey is a relatively new thing for Bunnahabhain. It wasn't until back in 1997 that they actually started laying down peated whiskey. So yeah, it's not been a core part of their business plan in the past. It's not a core part of their business plan now, and you know, we'll see where the future takes us. But while we have some peated, yeah, Ollie's just drink the Chag. Yeah, you should drink the Chag.
Well, it's the same owners, first of all, and then Billion, like that's her peat play essentially.
Yeah.
So yes, the peated Moines are going to be distillery exclusive face releases. If you want peated whiskey from the parent group Distill, then go to Lecheg. That's where they're going to double down on it.
Yeah. So Bunnahabhain, obviously, they're reducing the amount of peated whiskey. At Tobermory, they're actually increasing the amount of peated whiskey. So it's going to be a similar sort of thing with Tobermory. Is, you know, there's going to be a little bit less Tobermory out onto the market than there would be, just because Lecheg is so much more popular. And that's the thing, everyone is so enamored and loves unpeated classic sherry cask Bunnahabhain that, you know, the Moine gets a little bit less love. And you know, it's better to save it. And I'm looking forward to the day when we can have like old boy you know, Moines that are hitting that 20-30-year-old mark, where it's that peated spirit, but obviously like the cask interaction. So I'm looking forward to seeing that, because if you've ever tried like really old Kalilas, they're beautiful, like gorgeous. So I'm excited to see more older Moine as well coming onto the market. So, you know, it's we lose some, we win some, you know.
So this is 17-year-old.
They say it's 17. I'm saying 16 to be safe. I know the Scotch Whisky Association is out to get me on a Zoom tasting right now, but yeah, it was distilled in 2000 and 2004.
Four, yeah.
Still 2004. Yeah.
And they're saying on the 9th of March 2016, it was transferred to PX casks for 5 years finishing.
Yeah. So bottled 2021.
My favorite style of whiskey, I think this year, and we've had some excellent drams, but is the combination of sweet and peat, and this nails it for me. You get a little bit of tropical fruit and salty finish. Another excellent whiskey, and cask strength 51.8% ABV, 17 years old. You know, it's a bunner. It's smoky. Yeah, yum.
Yeah, it's a like that sweetness as well. It's almost like if you overbaked Anzac biscuits. You just pull them out and they're like, oh yeah, I'll still eat the burnt parts.
Yeah, it's got that, like drizzled in honey as well.
Yeah.
There we go, Michael.
Michael agrees with you, that honey on the finish. Nice.
I'm getting a little bit of caramelized pear as well. or toffee powder. I don't know how to explain it. It might be from the
Here.
PX. Might launch the poll. As always, pick your top 1 and 2. Always keen to get your thoughts and feedback. People liking this whiskey? It's a big departure from the first 5. A lot of thumbs up. Huey says my fave. It's also like a third of the price compared to the double wood that we just had. So yeah, like price to value ratio. This wins for me, I think. As we're letting people vote, I might just hit unmute. We're a small group tonight, so yeah, feel free to jump in and let us know your feedback, any questions. Yeah, we're very keen on getting Julian or someone else from the team to visit Australia next year. Hopefully tag along to some of the whisky shows, festivals, and yeah, she has a desire to visit Tasmania and some of the best whiskey bars in Sydney, Melbourne, and abroad as well, as much as possible. So we'll try our best to get her here for as long as possible and get as many tastings. Virtual ones are always great, but yeah, having a few in-person touch points is something special, and hopefully when she does come, bring some hand fills straight from the cask for us as well.
As many as I can convince her to fit in her suitcase.
Those are the times when you like just buy the extra luggage at the time of buying your ticket. Just do it. It's justified.
Yeah.
You know you're gonna fill it.
Yeah. That's the thing. Every time I have to travel for one of the shows interstate, I'm like, all right, pack half as much clothes as I normally would, because I know that the rest of my weight's gonna be taken up by whiskey. Yeah.
Shall we do the drum roll?
Go for it.
All right, little drum roll. I don't know if people can hear that. And there we go. Another tie. These ties are coming thick and fast again. We've spent a whole year of no ties in the last few tastings. We've had a few.
Yeah.
Well, this just tells me we nailed our tasting order, Emma.
Well, I mean, honestly, despite having not been able to taste them, that new Acquaintance, oh my gosh, I could tell as soon as I smelled it that it was going to be a favorite. So yeah, it's so good. Good to see the Bunnahabhain Cask Strength getting some love. The rest of them getting a trickle of love. But yeah, I think it's just that thing of like classic, big, rich, sherried Bunna is just so hard to beat.
And this is why we do these tastings. Like the distillery will pull out a random cask, call it a distillery exclusive, doesn't always translate to being the best in terms of you put it amongst its peers and you go try it. And this is why we do these tastings, actually, to unpack, to dissect and to decide if we enjoy these whiskies or not. And it's great that a distillery is experimenting with cask finishes, but when it comes to classics, Bunna is known as an unpeated sherry distillery in Islay, and the 12 cask strength tells that story. The old and rare double wood, Year Old Acquaintance, does the same as well. And Emma, I realize we've just been copying and pasting the 21-year-old as we go. But then, yeah, occasionally the repeated finish being an Islay distillery as well to share some of that, magical joy of Islay that they're known for, and yeah, you get a bit of special in your glass.
Yeah.
Any questions, feedback from the group? Pretty chilled tasting. As we get towards the end of the year, there's a few tickets left to some of our other tastings. I'm about to announce possibly one more tasting, Manly Spirits. Managed to sneak in the very last one of the year. I think it's going to be the 13th, Tuesday the 13th of December. But yeah, we're pretty much all done, and we're going to kick off next year with a bunch of other great tastings. I've been teasing this Ardbeg one, old and rare Ardbeg top shelf. The bottles are behind me. We just run out of time. We might. I'm trying to get a special guest from Moine Hennessy as well to pop in for that tasting. So we'll do it. Yeah, probably February, March. This January we're going to take a bit of a break. I feel like everyone's going to take a bit of a break this year. It's been a big year. So, but yeah, thank you all for your continued support. So many familiar faces. Yeah, so many of you guys have just been every single virtual tasting this year. So it's been a huge thanks, and just made our Wednesday and Thursday nights so much more fun when we can just go, yeah, tell us what you're thinking, how you're going, and you'll see Scott, Emma, and myself next year as well.
Yeah, next year you'll see a totally, hopefully I'll have sorted out, as this is currently hiding boxes galore, because I'm going to be moving in the next month. So there will be a whole new, it won't be as glorious as Michael's, but I will have a whole new setup. So it will be nice and different. You know, my New Year's resolution is to make it not look terrible. Leo, you're picking the brains, tips for working out a tasting order for a flight of peated whiskies. Okay, you can go either two ways. Because typically like sherry casks tend to overwhelm peat, you can go like sherry to bourbon. And I always go in like, I try and go increasing ABV order. Like tonight, it was all about how the flavor was going to work with the ABVs. But normally you want to go like increasing ABV. And normally with a tasting, you'll go increasing cask type. So you'll go like a bourbon or hogshead, then a wine cask finish, then a sherry cask finish, then a peated. So that's how I always try and structure them, because otherwise your palate can get like really exhausted. And that's how we always used to do them at Whiskey and when we would have like 15 different whiskeys, and we would have to be like, all right, you know, line them up in a way that we're not being ruined by one whiskey to go to taste the other. And we always put American whiskey last. So we always put American whiskey after peated Scottish whiskey, which is another thing that is quite unusual, most likely. But yeah, increasing ABVs, increasing cask richness is probably the best way to go about it. And like in terms of like distillery profiles as well, say like you had a Mannockmore and a Linkwood and they were both bourbon cask. Mannockmore is a little bit more lighter, like white flower jasmine spirit, and Linkwood is more orangey. So like it's much of a muchness, but if you wanted to go up in those, you look at the distillery character profiles is probably my recommendation.
The only thing I would add, because Leo said for a flight of peated whiskies, is look at the ppm. And if you don't know what the ppm is, open them, nose them, try them. There is very much a thing called peated fatigue on your palate. And if you've ever been to an Octomore or a Bruichladdich tasting, they'll always start with the classic Bruichladdich ranges. They'll move into some of the others, and they'll finish on you know, the crazy Octomores. And like I've done an Ardbeg tasting where you've accidentally had one of the like whiskey number 2 or number 3 was a higher ppm whiskey than, you know, they finish on the Tribar at the end, the 19-year-old, and the peat is quite low on it, and you can't taste any of the complexities and the subtleties of the flavor. Like that whiskey needs to be number 1 or 2. Like following the Ugadel, it just crashed, and you can't taste any other whiskey. And for someone new to peated whiskey, that's all they're going to taste is smoke and peat, and yeah, you'd want to enjoy, I think. So sometimes, like same with the old Lagavulin, same as the old Lefroy's, a 25 Lefroy goes old Islay peat whiskey, especially in the bourbon cask, the peat disappears as it gets older. So yeah, I've been to a tasting where they put the Lefroy 25 as the last whiskey after so many others, and no one can taste it. And they're sitting there and like, why am I drinking a $600 whiskey and it tastes like smoke? It should have been whiskey on number 1, like every single time. So yeah, it's just the fun of the game. Try them before. That's the fun bit of peat.
Yeah, like Ollie and even Chris in the comments has said, yeah, least peated and the older a peated whiskey gets, the more charcoal, the less peated. So yeah, older to younger is always a way. And yeah, I'll second that on, like, it's so easy to overpeat and like completely lose flavor. I remember I said, yeah, and he was like, I want to try these Ardbegs, and then I'll try an Octomore, and then I'll go back to Ardbeg. I'm like, that's a bad idea. You won't be able to taste the Ardbeg after the Octomore. He's like, no, it's fine. And I came back to him later. He was like, you were right. I don't taste anything. And I'm like, yeah. So and obviously it's hard with like ppms and stuff like that, but like softer smokes, like Lecheg is a very creamy smoke, and I would put a Lecheg before an Ardbeg, just because even though they're around the same ppm, it's how it interacts. So whatever feels least smoky. Yeah, coffee beans between to smell helps. Also, if you don't have coffee beans, or you don't like coffee or whatever, the crook of your elbow is supposed to be a scent neutralizer, because it's where your smell is, and you are pretty much immune to your smell unless you stink really bad. But it kind of resets your nose a bit, so you can just smell the crook of your elbow.
Scott's idea of having a beer as well, or even food, like how it says, even a simple lager, just in between, you have 3 peated whiskeys, have a lager, doesn't matter what it is, a small sip, just to rinse your palate out, refresh it, and then come back to it, and the whiskey number 4 out of 6 will feel more fresh, and you'll get a lot more nuance come through. There was a question before. Amber Lane, yes, we'll be working a lot more with Rod and the Amber Lane team next year. So there's going to be some very cool things happening. No tasting locked in for this year with them, but very soon in 2023. And Brad asks, what's the Coastal Stone tasting? So there'll be probably a couple work in progresses. Some new make spirit, and each year we do a Christmas series of whiskies that we call Something for Everything. This year is going to be focusing on some very cool Aussie whiskies. I don't know if I have time to announce it tomorrow, but definitely this week I was hoping for. But here's a sneak peek for the very first club release of Manly Spirits. So I don't know if you get metallic label. It's coming through. There we go. Emma, you flew up and Scott, you were all part of this. Do you want to actually give a tiny hint of what we're looking forward here?
Yeah, well, it's actually exciting to be there. I will say, when we were tasting these to select a cask, it was pretty unanimous, I think, right, Scott? Like, I felt like we all kind of agreed that this cask was the one, and then it was figuring out the ABV for it.
So it's a Sangiovese cask, natural cask strength, about 58.5%. All the details will come out. It's their oldest whiskey they have in their bond store.
Is it? I didn't even remember that.
It turns 4 years old on the 3rd of November, and we tried it in like September, and they were like, can you bottle it on October? And I said, it's going to wait like 28 days. So we can call it the oldest Manly cask ever released. They've obviously laid whiskey before. What they've done, they've done a core range release called Northeast this year, and a few others. They've done all their single barrel releases, but yeah, they're all about they're 3 to 3.5 years old. So yeah, we managed to snag not only that oldest whiskey, but it's from a very cool winery in New South Wales as well. And then we did a tasting panel, Scott and Emma included, and yeah, between the 6 of us, we did a blind tasting. We tried different ABVs, and this one stuck out, and we're like, can we grab it? And I said, we're going to kind of do it for ourselves, and then a bit of arm twisting, and yeah, next minute we've got one of our Christmas releases locked in. So yeah, looking forward to releasing that one.
Yeah, so Bradley, compared to the Pinot Port, I remember when we tasted it, I was like, this whiskey tastes red. And like it's that like red licorice, like the sometimes for me a whiskey tastes like a color that I can see, and it's very bizarre. But poinsettia flowers, it's like poinsettia flower red, and poinsettias are huge, especially in like Texas and in America for Christmas. So I was like, this is red. This is a Christmas whiskey. But yeah, it was. Scott, do you remember what you tasted from it? Because I mostly remember red.
No, not off the top of my head, but I was going to say that the Pinot cask was the Coastal Stone Pinot cask was a little bit more dry for me. I felt like this was a little bit more luscious, that kind of like succulent red wine kind of flavor.
Yeah.
It was a really nice balance of their spirit and the wine cask influence.
Yeah, because there was 2 other red wine casks that we tried. One starts with A that I can't remember for the life of me, and then there was what else was there? Oh, hi, Kat.
The Alienko? I have no idea. And there was a multi-pole. I have no idea how to pronounce that one either.
Montepulciano.
That one.
That's it.
Montepulciano. Yeah, and I wanted to. I think the Montepulciano was great, but I think it was again very similar to the Pinot. It was a bit too drying for like what I wanted, because what I thought we should bottle, because you want it to appeal to everyone, and not everyone is a big like savory red wine drinker. So especially not me. I hate savory red wine. So yeah, and it just, the Sangiovese was the call.
I might just hit pause on recording. So thank you officially for joining us on the Bunna Top Shelf tasting tonight, and we'll see you at our next tasting.